Hi, everybody. Happy to see so many of you here with us tonight. I have to tell you, I really want to begin with thanks to our Vice President for Communications, Teresa Nakata, and her entire team who planned this evening, including this nice, cool weather. Isn't it wonderful? Thank you, Teresa. I also want to say thank you to all of the servers and the folks tonight who made the reception so lovely. The bartenders, the servers, everyone who made us feel welcome and at home right away. Thanks to all of you. So, we trust you enjoyed the Contemporary Jazz team with Heartbeat Music Academy. Tyra Hawthorne directs the Academy, and she is interested in growing outstanding performance artists who also are really focused on learning and education. And I think that we really want to thank Tyra and her team for joining us tonight. There's going to be a lot of applause tonight because tonight is our annual meeting and we are full of gratitude and appreciation. So we will make sure that we keep the applause going throughout the evening. I'm Kathleen Mead, and it is a pleasure. Thank you. And it is a pleasure again to see all of you tonight. We do hope that you are able to stay throughout the evening and get to know everybody who is around you. If there's somebody sitting near you that you haven't met yet, please take a moment and say hello and welcome them to Liberty Station tonight.
You want us to do it now?
Yeah, do it. Say hello.
Libertad. Gracias. ¿De dónde eres? De San Diego.
One of the things you'll also notice tonight is that there are several members of the audience, our guests, who are wearing medals. And those people who are wearing medals are endowment builders here at the San Diego Foundation. So tonight we have several of our board members in the audience. Darcy Bingham, I don't think I've seen Darcy yet. If I haven't, Darcy, sorry about that. Connie Matsui, our immediate past chair. And I want to share with everyone that on November 14th, on National Philanthropy Day, Connie Matsui is being recognized as the organizational volunteer in San Diego. So much deserved congratulations, Connie. Thank you. Not only what she's done with our organization, but so many organizations that she brings her leadership and talents to, and it is so well deserved, so thank you. Also in the audience tonight, we have Kay Chandler. I'm looking out, there's Kay. Ben Haddad, did I say Ben already? Steve Klosterman and Ginny Merrifield. And Dr. Constance Carroll, who will be following me. Constance is our new board chair, and Constance, as you know, is the Chancellor of the Community College District. Also tonight, our newest board member, Dr. Becky Pettit with UCSD, is with us. And so before we begin tonight's program, I would love for all of us just to take a moment to keep in our thoughts those people who are living with the devastation in their lives of earthquakes and hurricanes, and certainly closer to home here in California, the fires in Northern California. We know firsthand what it's like to experience that kind of crisis and devastation, and our hearts go out to everyone in all of those communities. So just a moment of silence for them. We are in communication with most of the community foundations in all of these areas, including the Puerto Rico Community Foundation, which I think many of you have seen is so devastated, and it's going to take such a long time for them to rebuild. We are delighted to announce tonight that our donors, through their donor advised funds, have contributed more than $700,000 to relief and recovery efforts through all of these crises and devastation that we've seen most recently. And let's take a moment to thank all of them. Now again, we also know that these rebuilding efforts take oftentimes months and years. So we want to remind you that when all of the news reports stop and when the immediate crisis, the information is toned down, try to remember them and keep them in your generosity. Today we're gathering for opportunity. We recognize at the San Diego Foundation and through our many donors and all of the nonprofits represented here tonight that opportunity isn't doled out equally. Opportunity is something that many of us receive, and many of us only receive through the generosity and goodwill of others. And that's what we're celebrating tonight, and that is also what we want to talk with you about tonight. Opportunity especially exists through education, when we're able to look around us and say, will education be an equalizer in our community? Will it give people the opportunity to have those jobs and those lives that they would like to have in San Diego and throughout the region? And so as we talk about opportunity, we absolutely believe that there is no better time than right now for us to talk about civil dialogue, civil discourse, and peacemaking. And oftentimes that is taught through education. Whether that education happens at a grade school level, middle school level, or in college, sometimes we have to be educated and to learn how to be civil with one another. And I am delighted that tonight we have 3 speakers who are practicing peace building locally, nationally, and globally. And we'll look forward to you meeting them later this evening. We learned this afternoon that one of the organizations, and whose CEO is speaking with us tonight, has received the Bank of America Neighborhood Builder Award. Along with that award comes a $200,000 grant, and we want to congratulate Steve Dinkin and the National Conflict Resolution Center. Peace building is so important throughout our community, and you'll hear more about that this evening. So, as we discuss civil dialogue and civil discourse and peace tonight, we would absolutely love for you to share that with the rest of the community. So please take out your devices. I know people usually say when you're at events, put them away. We'd love for you to put them on silent, but then take them out, and we would like you to update the community, your community, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram using the hashtag SDEngage. SDEngage. For anybody you'd like to tweet, Facebook, Instagram out to share this evening. So as I mentioned before, education is a key to a civil society, and tonight we're going to try something new with you. We have decided that we would love for you to be able to share in helping us to create a community scholars program that will help more students get into college, persist in college, and to graduate. And as we know, it's not just about 4-year college educations. Our community college district offers many vocational programs where people can begin to work in the workplace and earn a living that is a living of dignity. So we absolutely want you to consider joining us tonight. We have this Community Scholars Program, and we're delighted to announce that in partnership with Reality Changers, we are going to begin with Sweetwater Unified School District and begin to work with them, their teachers, and their counselors to help students know how to access financial aid to help them persist through college. So tonight, along with the rest of all of our donors, we're offering you an opportunity to help support and invest in our youth. You can text 511-55, text to 511-55 scholarships, and you can make a gift to any, thank you, Teresa, you can make a gift at any level to help participate in the Community Scholarships Program. What's most exciting about this program is that we were awarded a grant from Oakland-based College Futures Foundation. So that's money coming from outside of San Diego, invested in San Diego to match your gifts. So our Community Scholars Program, any gifts you make will be matched by the College Futures Foundation. So we believe that you are interested in, we believe you're interested in moving forward with our program. And tonight I'm excited to introduce you to our new board chair, Dr. Constance Carroll. Dr. Carroll is, as I said earlier, the chancellor of our community college district, and we are all so fortunate to have Dr. Carroll bring her leadership and her experience to the San Diego Foundation. She's been a volunteer with us for 7 years and most recently chaired our audit committee, and now she's chairing our board. So Constance, please come to the podium, and thank you.
I'm taller than Kathleen, by the way. Thank you, Kathleen, very much. And thanks to all of you for coming here. You're all very busy people, we know, and it means a lot to us in the foundation that you've taken the time to be here with us this evening. Since my appointment as chair of the Board of Governors of the foundation, people are always asking me, where do you find the time to do this? And other people are suggesting that maybe I should consider Mesa Vista Hospital as my next residence. Well, the answers to both questions are simple. The first is that the San Diego Foundation is an exceptionally well-run, well-managed organization. And that is important to me and my fellow board members because it enables us to focus on policy, vision, and direction rather than on micromanagement of the work of the foundation. And as to my sanity and Mesa Vista Hospital, that's in question, I think. But I've found that service, which is very important to me, is what keeps me balanced in the end. And I think that's what the key element is for all of you here, because all of you have provided either direct service through volunteering or through your great gifts. My task is to talk a little bit about the past year and our current situation. The past year was a very good year, but it was not a year that was without challenges. And the first challenge as a community college person, I must point out, is the challenge that faces our immigrant populations and our students, especially our DACA students. They are having a very difficult, even harrowing time right now, facing enormous uncertainties on a daily basis. And I'm very proud of the fact that our community colleges, our universities, our members of the community and community organizations have stepped forward to support them with the message that we are with you, and also the message that you too are part of our community. You too are San Diegans. And so that is very important to me. And in just the last few weeks and days and months, major events have had an impact upon our region, upon the world in general. And these events remind us of how expansive and how global even our definition of community has become. Aside from all of the wars across the world, disastrous earthquakes, fires, floods have raged across the world and also across California. However, because we are compassionate people, disasters in places like Puerto Rico, Napa and Sonoma counties and elsewhere actually have the effect of bringing us together. Outside of these disasters, other people are facing the challenges of lack of opportunity, of prejudice, of violence, and we must be there for them as well. And we do this through philanthropy. And what's interesting to us in the foundation is that philanthropy itself has always been changing, has been changing over the years. It is no longer just a way to address individual interests and specific challenges. It's now a means of addressing the opportunities provided in the broader community itself. It's about change as well. Let me share just a few examples. During the fiscal year 2017 at the San Diego Foundation, hundreds of generous donors gave more than $50 million to nonprofit organizations that accelerate change, that drive innovation, and lend a hand to those in need. This $50 million is in addition to the more than $1 billion that the San Diego Foundation has received and given through the past 42 years of its history. And this is what has made the San Diego Foundation now one of the leading, I believe we're in the top 30 community foundations in the nation. So to our donors and partners, let me say thank you for your commitment to the concept of community. Thank you for your trust in the San Diego Foundation, and thank you for your impressive generosity. The Foundation is also a good steward of the assets that are entrusted. This year, the Foundation's charitable investments have reached strong returns, helping to grow our giving. Overall market growth, combined with a well-diversified portfolio of over $732 million in assets, resulted in strong returns that have not only met but outpaced all of the goals that the Foundation set for its 1, 3, 5, and 10-year time horizons. As philanthropists, we promote positive change through grant making, through strategic partnerships, and civic engagement that improve the lives of people and the places in this wonderful place that we call San Diego. Today, in our intensely connected world, charitable giving has an expanded and more complex meaning. More than ever before, philanthropy does have the power to influence systemic change and turn communities around. It may not surprise you that in 2017, the $50 million that I mentioned that had been given, 66% of that were in grants that were given to nonprofit organizations that focused on health and human services, education, and arts and culture. But what may surprise you is that the fourth largest category of giving, which was $7.2 million, was given by San Diegans who want to build a civil society. And as we know, a civil society begins and starts with an educated society. Educated society. Now that's dangerous for me because now I can feel a real speech coming on. And after all, I am a college chancellor and professor, so the word education just got me again. But what I'll do with the speech that is now moving forward is I will rein that in and introduce the next segment of our program. We are truly fortunate tonight to hear from three distinguished peace builders, as Kathleen mentioned them earlier. Peace builders in our community who will share stories about how their work is promoting peace through civil discourse in the San Diego region. We have much to learn from them. I know each of them, and I know that you're in for a real treat. Dr. Patricia Marquez, Dean of the University of San Diego's Joan B. Kroc School of Peace Studies, Sheppard, founder of Game Changer, and Steve Dinkin, president of the National Conflict Resolution Center. Please join me in welcoming them, and thank you so much for your attention.
Good evening. Did you know that peace is not going to happen on its own? Education is needed. And that's why at the Kroc School, we activate peace. We make peace work locally and globally. And we do this through three components: Or should I say 3 ingredients? Because I'm going to talk about this cookbook, to talk about the work that we do. It's titled Gran Cocina Latina, the Food of Latin America. Who can make Argentinian empanadas if you are not Argentinian or maybe Paraguayan? My friend Jorge back there. So in order to make great Argentinian empanadas, you need ingredients, you need a recipe, and you need a method. So component number 1, for us at the Kroc School, we teach smart strategies, smart methods to build peace. Passion is essential, but it's not enough. Julie Ethan graduated from the Kroc School in 2013, ready to be a change maker. And like all of us in this audience, is shocked with the state of polarization, with the disunion that is happening in this country. This year, she co-founded the Better Angel Minnesota Alliance, part of a national organization that brings together people across the red and blue divide. They use smart methods, techniques in conflict resolution, to move people forward, to move people beyond the traditional stereotypes of the other, and find common ground on issues such as immigration reform. But they're not happy just to do workshops and seminars. They're important finding those spaces and using these techniques. They also create podcasts and now are working on a documentary. So we understand, what does polarization look like on an everyday basis? What does it do among our friends, our family, our communities? But the best part, what are solutions to get out of the situation? Chicken with mole sauce would not have happened without experimentation and innovation. To take something like cocoa beans, I'm from Venezuela, so we are very familiar, and it gets a lot of creativity to get from cocoa beans to chocolate to mole sauce. And you still need the cookbook to be able to do it. Component number 2 is innovation. We're not going to address humanity's greatest challenges without experimentation and innovation. Did you know that in Kenya's black market, you can get a rifle for the price of 2 cows, 4 goats? The small weapons trade is big. It's an $8.5 billion trade per year. Yet, we know very little of this illicit trade that ends up in the hands of civilians. Very little among the former military and the police forces. If this is the case, what are we willing to do? Every year, we convene researchers, practitioners, and companies in emerging technologies to figure out how can we map the flow of guns across shanty towns, across regions, just like in the weather, to be able to forecast hotspots where we might have attacks, where we might have emerging violence, and then perhaps we can be better prepared. In July, if you want to see this in action, we're actually having July 7th a GIS hackathon, GIS for Peace hackathon. You're all welcome to join. Did we know long ago about Venezuelan arepas? Did you know in San Diego? Probably not. Now we know about Venezuelan arepas, and it also comes with something that says they're gluten-free. And the special corn meal that you need, readily available, harina pan. Component number 3 of the Kroc School, we build global networks to nurture and support the flow of peacemakers, ideas, and knowledge. Yaman Dow is a woman peacemaker from the Gambia, West Africa. She joined in 1984, she joined the police forces to help prevent the situation that she faced as a young girl when she was assaulted. And there was no system in place to do anything about it. She is the head of the Child Protection Unit in the Gambia. She exports her practices, her knowledge to Liberia, to Darfur, and now to San Diego. She tells us what a courageous doer does. She received 3 bullet shots on her leg, and she had to take her own knife when the wounds festered. Yamandao is this semester with us at the Kroc School. If you want to know what she does, come next week, October 25th, to the Women Peacemakers panel. When I was a little girl in Caracas, I did not like Peruvian ceviche. I didn't. And I always grumbled when my parents took us to one of the few Peruvian restaurants in Caracas. Not ceviche. And now, our children, decades later, they eat poke, they eat sushi, and they don't even think about it. I now decided my favorite food is Peruvian food and ceviche. Change can happen. My hope is that we together mainstream peace education, that we write recipes for creating change, that we celebrate peace builders more than we celebrate celebrity chefs. And that as we do this, we create the future that we want to see. That we here in San Diego move from polarization and disunion to integration and opportunities for all. Thank you very much.
Right now, society is suffering from a lack of hope and a lack of tolerance. And people seem so quick to judge. And I feel like we're losing faith in humanity. At the National Conflict Resolution Center, we're working at so many levels of society to try to address these issues. And I want to tell you about one success story, one bold program called Avoiding the Pipeline to Prison. You see, over the past several decades, in many of the schools across this nation, they're practicing something called zero tolerance discipline. And that means that if a child commits an offense, one offense, and a child is suspended from school, a more serious offense and a child is often expelled. And what happens to that child, even if that child is out of school for one day, they find themselves in this pipeline to prison. Now let's say that they're in a store and they end up stealing, shoplifting, perhaps it's a felony. Now they're caught in the prosecutorial body, and now they're caught again in the pipeline to prison. They're incarcerated. They might not ever get out of the system. And that's what's happening across the country. But in San Diego, we're doing something different. In San Diego, we're taking a stand. The National Conflict Resolution Center has brought together a whole coalition of partners, foundations, law enforcement, the San Diego Unified School System, nonprofit organizations, to make a change, to stop the flow of youth into the prison system. And I want to tell you how this is happening. I want to tell you a story, and it starts with 2 individuals and really 3 numbers. The 2 individuals is a young boy and an elderly woman. The young boy one day decides that he wants to steal a car just for a joyride. So he takes the car and off he goes. And as he's driving recklessly, he ends up hitting a pole and just destroys the car. So he's soon arrested and he goes to the prosecutor. And the prosecutor says, I'll give you 2 choices. You can go through the criminal justice system, or you can try a new idea that we're creating in San Diego. It's called restorative justice. It's an opportunity for you to discuss the issue and try to create change. And the boy's like, obviously, I'm going to try restorative justice. So he shows up at the meeting, and he's got an attitude. Like, so I wrecked the car. It's an old car. What's the big deal? And he walks into the room with this attitude. And as soon as he steps in the room, a community member walks up to him and extends his arm and says, "Welcome, young man. Welcome to this restorative justice event." And the boy is just like startled. No one has ever shown him that respect. Just saying, "Hello, how are you? Welcome." So they all sat down in a circle. It was community members, the victim, the elderly lady, and other people, mentors in the room. And so they're about to talk, and before anyone said something, the elderly lady said, "It was me. It was my car. It was my car that you stole." And the boys just looked at her. And she said, "You know, it really wasn't about the car. There was something very special in the back seat. It was my wedding album. I was taking it to a friend's house because my husband just passed away a year ago. And this was a memory that I cherished, and I was bringing this book with me to see my friend. And now the book is gone." And the boy's eyes lit up, and he looked up. He said, I had no idea. I was just thinking about the car. I had no idea." And he said, "You know, my father died many years ago, and I see how my mom suffers. And I begin to understand, what you're thinking." And immediately, they had a common understanding. And the victim, she felt whole because she understood now. She put a face to the crime, and the boy, began to understand and sympathize with the victim in a whole new light. And so what they did is they worked through a plan. And the boy agreed to apologize. The boy came up with an action plan with the mentors and with everyone in the circle. And as a result of that, the district attorney agreed to drop the charges. So we are telling the story in the community, and someone said, "So I still don't understand. I don't understand the value of this, the cost of this." And that's where the three numbers come in, because it costs $1,200 to go through a restorative circle. It costs $9,500 for the prosecutor to take this case through the court. And if the boy or if an individual is incarcerated, it's over $100,000. So think about that savings for the community and for our government. And there's something else that we found, that individuals going through the restorative circle process, through restorative justice, 6 times less likely to find themselves back incarcerated, back in the prison system. So together in San Diego, all of us together, law enforcement, the community, we're creating a change. We're doing something in San Diego that is creating a change that we're not seeing anywhere else in this nation. And so as the director of the National Conflict Resolution Center, I'm proud to be part of this community and part of this movement in San Diego to change how we think about individuals and how they're in the system and how to build more civility for our whole community. Thank you.
Good evening, and God bless everyone. You ever notice how when there's an uprising in our country, our elected officials stand behind the podium and they say, we need more unity. We need to come together. As if you could speak unity into being by just uttering the words. It doesn't work that way. I've spent a great deal of time starting at the age of 7 in environments that were all about unity and setting aside your differences to work together. And it was called Pop Warner football. And I played football throughout college. And then when I was done playing, I became a strength and conditioning coach on the collegiate level. Any Aztecs here? All right. So I started coaching at San Diego State and then moved on to Kansas State. And I was as a Wildcat here? Okay. Any Boston College Eagles here? Really? All right. So I moved from San Diego State to Kansas State to Boston College. And I finished up, I got a big mouth, so you can still hear me, right? I finished up as the Director of Strength and Conditioning at the Ohio State University. I know there's Buckeyes here. I know that. So, talk about people setting aside their differences and working toward a common cause on a daily basis, and that's what sports does. And in that light, I created a nonprofit 14 years ago called Embrace that did just that. My objective was to bring people together on a regular basis the way sports does. We've had several programs throughout the years, but this particular program that we created is called Game Changer, and we believe it to be just that. So the way it works is 3 hours before the start of a professional or collegiate sporting event, we get members of law enforcement, judges, elected officials, and lay members of the community like you and I. And they could be juveniles, young adults in college. And we come together for a moderated focus group. And we talk for 2.5 hours about problems, solutions, people who have things that they need to get off their chest. And so does law enforcement. They have a lot to say. Dinner is served. And when we're done with our moderated focus group, everyone that's at the table, it's about 20 people, 15 members of the community like you and I, and 5 or 6 members of law enforcement. Everyone has an opportunity to go around the room and share what they learned that they didn't know before they walked in the room. And then we all go to the game together and spend some human quality bonding time. If you could imagine, sometimes the conversations get tense, so sometimes there's fence mending that takes place at the game, but there's bridge building at the game. And show of hands, who's ever been to a sporting event? Okay, do you enjoy yourself at the game? Okay, and you're talking about whatever, especially at a baseball game. There's plenty of time to talk at a baseball game. So that's the gist of the program, but there's a woman in the audience here who, she's a wise woman. She's not that tall, but she's very bright. She told me a long time ago to never tell a story without numbers and never have numbers without a story. So we actually collect data during the focus groups. And the data consists of everyone in the room filling out a pre-perception survey. So we have a pre-perception survey that measures their thoughts about various aspects of law enforcement, community relations. And then while we're at the game, we have smart tablets and they fill out a post-perception survey. And we do that because this is a behavioral psychology model. And we believe that a change in thought can lead to a change in behavior. A change in behavior that we're looking for in this case is more peaceful outcomes. I'm not going to dig too deep into the data, but I will share this with you. The top 2 reasons why there is unrest between law enforcement and community. Law enforcement and community agree upon the top reason: poor communication. Either what's being said, how it's being said, or nothing's being said at all. They disagree on the second reason. The community attributes lack of trust, and law enforcement thinks the number 2 problem is compliance. Well, if I don't trust you, how can I blindly comply with you? People often ask me, what are the focus groups like? What's the event like? Well, it's about exposure, and with exposure comes education. So if you can imagine, people who've never had an opportunity to sit down with a plain-clothed member of law enforcement and talk it out. And law enforcement rarely, if ever, has the opportunity to do the same. When we get involved with law enforcement, it's not a good day. They're pulling us over, they're giving us a ticket. We don't talk about the Chargers leaving Did I say that? I'm sorry. So you have that type of education going on due to exposure, but there's also the exposure that takes place from community member to community member. So in light of Charlottesville, Virginia, we have people from all points of San Diego County, rich, poor, black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, all hearing from one another and speaking with one another and learning from one another. It's the type of education that you cannot get in a classroom. People ask me, who are your partners? How are you getting this done? Well, we're currently working with 13 members, 13 agencies representing law enforcement, community colleges, four-year colleges like San Diego State and USD, community organizations, nonprofits, student organizations. So we have everyone coming to the table to partner, and most importantly, businesses, because we couldn't do this without the San Diego Padres, SDG&E. And it's not just the philanthropic dollars that they're providing and the space that they're donating for us to have our focus groups or the game tickets. It's about their input too. So we have CEOs joining the focus groups. They've never seen anything like it. And getting their input is extremely valuable to us because the business community is part of the community. So we literally have everyone in the room and going to the game together and spending time with one another. I'm often asked, what has been the biggest surprise? Well, when you create something from scratch, you really don't know how it's going to go. So for us to have 13 law enforcement agencies working with us, that's been a surprise because we started out with just the police department, and that turned into the probation department, and that turned into Federal Border Patrol. So there's local, state, and federal law enforcement working with us. But I want to say this, the thing that surprised me most is the mental health issues that I've learned about when it comes to law enforcement. Oftentimes when we turn on the television, we may see a tragic incident with law enforcement dealing with a mental health call. Very difficult call, and sometimes they do end tragically, but learning about the mental health issues that law enforcement deal with on a daily basis. To see a Border Patrol agent break down, sobbing in a focus group because of what he's seen over the years, day after day, and learning that law enforcement's #1 cause of death is suicide, that has surprised me. So I want to take an opportunity to invite everyone to become a game changer. Dinner's on me, and the tickets are on me. Thank you.